Munti, who should listen to this conversation that we're about to have?
I think any aspiring young leaders, anyone who feels like they want to get interested in leadership roles or some sort of roles that boost their confidence and try and make their impact on the world or on their local area or on any sort of level, if anyone just needs that confidence booster or that reassurance, I think hopefully this podcast will be the best thing for them.
So we're going to start with you telling myself and the listeners about your time as the youth mayor of Derby. What was that like?
Okay, so the youth mayor of Derby is a role where one young person out of the whole city of Derby is elected to represent pretty much all of the youth of Derby. Yeah. So this is on a local government level. Mm-hmm. So you attend council cabinet meetings, scrutiny board meetings, finance boards, all sorts of different meetings where it's crucial that young people have some sort of influence. So, for example, when it comes to council cabinet meetings where the major decisions are being made about the city, it's important that I, for example, or any other youth mayor is there to make sure that the government is scrutinised on how young people are affected or how they are taken into consideration for the decision making in the city. It also involves lots of engagements throughout the city, attending events, speeches, going to schools, lots and lots of different stuff.
The image that I'm getting isn't a tokenistic role, but rather it's how youth role should be, which is you're representing the people of your age group in spaces where they'd otherwise be neglected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about your journey to getting to that point. I understand that you didn't get there on your first try.
Yes. No, I didn't. Okay. So if I had to go all the way to the start, I guess you could say primary school was the start of my journey towards becoming Derby Youth Mayor, because that's when I first heard about the role. And at that time, they were doing the elections allowing the elections to take place in primary schools. So that's when I first heard about it. And I didn't really get into leadership roles at that time. So it was just a bit of an afterthought. But I thought about when I was listening to those speeches, what would it look like if I was up there doing a speech and trying to become the youth mayor of Derby. So fast forward all the way through secondary school to around year 10 or end of year 9 to year 10. Was when the youth mayor elections were beginning, and our school were given its applications to put forward who they wanted to be the candidate for Noel Baker Academy for the role of youth mayor. I put myself forward. So there's 4 applications that normally go out to each secondary school for who they want to be youth mayor, and normally that's shortlisted by the electoral services, the current youth mayor, and a few other members of the council to just one per school. I think I was the only candidate for Noel Baker that ran, so I got through that stage. I delivered a speech to the Voice and Action Youth Council, which I was a part of at that time for around 3 years. So I had some experience with the members there. I knew I knew the environment, so I did feel relatively comfortable, but still a bit nervous when I delivered my first speech. And I ran. Luckily, I managed to get to the top 4 at that time as well. And this is something that I do regret when it came to my first electoral campaign, and that I improved upon my second, was I didn't really take on board or take it too seriously, because ever since that, so from that point to the first first leadership roles I had, I don't know, school council, head boy, I've always managed to get in to the roles I want to do on my first try. So I was kind of, you could say, arrogant in the sense that I thought that I'd get into the role of youth mayor on my first running. I got a big, hard-hitting smack to the face of a reality check when I didn't get the role. I remember I felt so disappointed in myself, and it was just something that hit me, and I just couldn't get it off my head. So from that year that I didn't get it all the way to the next year, youth mayor was the only thing in my mind, and I was planning and trying to think of different ways that I could try and improve my campaign to make sure that I 101% got the role the next time that I ran. And so I ran for the second time, did all those speeches, stages, etc. Got to the top 4 again, but this time I made sure to improve upon my electoral campaign. So what I did was I contacted around 14 different secondary schools across Derby, emailing them, asking them to promote my poster, which I also produced. I promoted that poster to local businesses, to everyone pretty much that I knew, asking them to hang it on their storefronts, hang it up on their businesses, etc., to get my name out as much as possible. I remember every day on my social media accounts, I'll be posting about my campaign, trying to get people involved, just cementing it into their heads to vote for Munti, vote for Munti, vote for Munti. And in the end, it all turned out well. I still remember the moment where they announced my name. It felt as if everything just stopped. And then I just heard my name. It was like this massive, like, wave of relief, really. Like 2 years of like campaigning, and then all the way from primary school, something that I aspired to, and finally managed to get it. And from that time all the way to the end of Youth Mayor, and even after Youth Mayor, I've just tried to maximize all the opportunities I've had since then.
Very good breakdown. You've given us a very in-depth breakdown there of basically your whole progress through primary school all the way to winning after your second time of applying to be the youth mayor. So what was like the toughest parts of that journey?
I think the toughest part of being youth mayor, especially as a student, is balance. Trying to get that balance down. So because I got in my second time, that was around year 11 to year 12. So that was the transition from GCSEs to the first year of A-levels. So it was probably quite a tough time. So I remember I spent pretty much all of my free periods just answering emails that came with the role, whether that's with the council, different organisations. And most of the time I'd be taking time out of school from sixth form to attend different events or engagements, stuff like that. So definitely a big obstacle was trying to have a clean balance of between school life and then youth mayor life, because this is something that they tell you once you get into the role, that it's basically a job. Because I mean, you do get a bursary, you are responsible, you do get a council account, you get a laptop, everything. You're given full responsibility with the work that you do. So it's pretty much taken on a job, almost full-time job, whilst you're doing school as well, working on A-levels. So I think that was definitely a big obstacle. But for me, I think the fact that the deputy youth mayor as well, Harmon, she was also at the same sixth form as me. So we were basically able to split the work between us, collaborate effectively. I think that's what really led to a really successful role during our time as youth mayors.
So what was the highlight then of your career?
So we got so much, tooting my own horn, but we got a lot of stuff done during my time as youth mayor. So if I had to break it down to maybe two things, it would be the White Ribbon campaign. So the White Ribbon campaign was a campaign that we came up with to raise awareness against violence perpetrated towards young women and girls. It was something that a member of our Voice and Action Youth Council actually first came up with, and me, along with 7 other male members from the youth council, we all collaborated to try and set up some sort of campaign for Derby that was youth-led. So it was really important. That was probably the most integral part of it. That was youth-led, not council-led, not, any other organisation, but young people were to be the heart of it. So what we did for that campaign was we produced a film for it, highlighting like a scenario-based film. We got all secondary schools to wear the white ribbon to show their support, all male students to wear a white ribbon. We had a competition that we ran across all the secondary schools, and we basically promoted the campaign as much as we could through social media, etc. And that went on to become really successful. So it got nominated for a few charity awards in the local area as well. But most notably, and I think, Khan, you know about this as well, we got nominated. So nominated for the National Crime Beats Awards. The story behind that was, so I found out about the National Crime Beats Awards a day before the applications, because that's when our High Sheriff told us about it. And so basically I had to spend like midnight, pretty much just before midnight, writing up the application, sending it in just in time for us to go through. And we actually managed to get through to the top 3. So we got 3rd place in the campaign, into the National Crime Beats Awards. And we also won the National High Sheriffs Association Award for that as well. So we could say that we led a campaign that started at a local level with young people that got national recognition, and I guess is a nationally award-winning campaign. So definitely that's a big thing that I'm really happy with. And second of all, I had a lot of meetings during my time as youth mayor, but if I had to pin down one that was the most significant, was the Council of Europe's European Commission Against Racism Intolerance. We're doing their reports that they do every 5 years in the UK, and they actually specifically asked to meet with me to discuss how ethnic minorities are represented in the city, which is an opportunity no other youth mayor has had. And I don't know if any other youth mayor will. So it was a big step for me in terms of branching myself out from, again, a local level in Derby, not just nationally with the National Crime Beats Awards, but now internationally as well. So it's something I'm really proud of and something that I'm really grateful for with the role of youth mayor.
Just speaking to you right now, your energy is contagious, right? What impact have you had on other young people?
So if I had to think of one way that I've tried to influence young people or tried to express myself as someone who's, relatable, but also hardworking, some that they could aspire to is, I guess one path is through my faith. So faith has been a big thing for me in the last, 5-6 years or so. And it's been something that I've tried to not only preach, I guess you could say, to social media, etc., but also try and implement my own self through my own character. And it's something that I think that is really influential for young people. So things about faith, so for example, respect or having a positive mindset, for example, these are things that you don't have to be religious to adopt. And I think that these sorts of characteristics is something that I try and embody, like optimism, all these different things, so that other young people can see that and try and aspire towards that. And especially coming from my background of someone who was really shy, actually, in primary school, even in secondary school, and just working himself up through experience after experience, to the point where they become the youth mayor of Derby, is something that I hope other young people can aspire to, even if they are socially awkward or introverted, etc.
So, Munti, what is your mission as it stands right now?
Which mission? I mean, there's lots of different things I'm working on, even now. So there's the part with trying to get youth engagement, trying to be a representative for young people. There's a side of me who's trying to get into faith, trying to build on that personally, but also trying to address misconceptions about my own faith of Islam, engage in interfaith relations, trying to improve those in our city. There's also the side of me that's working in school. So, I mean, school life, A-levels, aspiring to be a theologian, Islamic theologian. So going on to university to study that. And then there's the politics side of me as well. That's trying to get into local politics to represent our people of Derby and Derby South. Just lots of different sides, lots of different baskets that I've got my eggs in right now. So it's just trying to collate all that and trying to do as much as I can with all those different roles.
And I think that's the best way to go about it, because you're clearly very passionate about each basket, and you're also spreading the risk, I suppose, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
But each basket has its own potential to have a positive impact on people. So doing all of these different things as a young person in sixth form, what are your time management tips?
Time management. Okay. So actually, this funnily reminds me of. So I've mostly been a more free flow kind of person. Just get with the flow, go with the rhythm, etc. But I feel like that's kind of affected my productivity. So over the past few weeks, actually, I've started a bit of a routine. Waking up at 6 a.m., going to sleep at 9 p.m., just planning my day out hour by hour. Yeah. And I think a big part for me is the reason that I've kind of stayed away from routines in the past, because I find them too intensive. So, for example, with my routine that I've started now, I prioritize breaks over working. So I have more hours that I have breaks rather than more hours that I have working. I think it's finding that balance in terms of not everyone's highly productive in that they can work for 2 hours straight and only have a 20-minute break. For me, I'm someone who needs a 1 hour break with a 1 minute time of work or school, whatever. So I think trying to balance your time out in a way that works for you, not just looking on the internet and finding best way to manage your time. Look at these top 3 tips, it's not going to work for everyone. You need to experiment with things that might work for you. If you're a more break-oriented person, if you're more productive, if you feel like you're someone who can get on work for 3 hours, no breaks, if you feel like that works best for you, go with that. If you're not, if you need smaller breaks or larger breaks, go with that. So I think it depends on the person, but just do you is what I'd say.
So with such a wide range of aspirations, of things that you're pursuing, where will Munti be in 20 years' time?
So, where will Munti be in 20 years' time? So, Munti would have loved to go on to university, to have studied theology, philosophy, and religion. After that, he'd like to go into teaching for a bit, teaching religion, because that is a passion of mine as well. After that, hopefully, he'd either go into politics straight away in terms of running for local MP, or get his foothold, become a councillor first of all, get some maybe experience in that, and then hopefully in 20 years, I don't know, hopefully an MP, yeah.
Okay. You have probably given me one of the most humble responses to that question.
Really?
Yeah, but not humble, as in humble, like not focused on results. Rather, you seem to strike me as someone who's value led. You really want to give back to people, and you really have a mission to just provide value to people, right?
Yes, definitely. I think it stems from my own background as well, coming from like a working class background, ethnic minority. Things have been tough for me trying to get opportunities, and I see that like with other young people as well. So for me to be someone that they can aspire to, that even if you've come from nothing, you're the first generation of your family to be born here in the UK, you come from a like poorer background, but you can still get these opportunities. You can still become the youth mayor of Derby. You can still have nationally recognized campaigns. You can still have connections outside, like internationally in Europe. All these different things you don't need money for. You just need ambition. You need passion. You need that drive to be able to go pave your own path, really, not just follow the sheep, you could say, but to really be a goal, like a ambitious person that strives to make those changes by forcing themselves to go out and seek those opportunities, and not just think that all those opportunities will come for you, but to be have initiative.
Agency,
Agency,
which is in the podcast name, Inspiring Youth.
There we go.
Agency.
Perfect.
And I think you are Inspiring Youth Agency. I'm sure lots of listeners are tuning in right now and thinking, you know what? I would like to have a crack at being a bit of a politician like Munti. So let's say you're an MP tomorrow. What's the first thing that you're going to champion and campaign for?
Ooh. I think, so for me, we'll be trying to recognise youth voice a lot more. So this is something I talked about during my time as youth mayor. I was invited on to BBC Radio Derby to debate the issue of voting ages. So should the voting age be lowered to 16? And basically my main argument was that young people are more politically active today compared to the past 20, 30 years. And I think a statistical way that you can look at it is the youth mayor elections themselves. So if we looked at the council elections for the time that I ran as youth mayor in 2022 to 23, voting turnout was around 33%, 34%. You look at the youth mayor elections, 64, 65%. So almost double the turnout from young people. So the drive is there, the ambition is there for young people to be engaged in politics, whether that's through activism or through elections.
Yes.
We need to foster that growing ambition, that growing fire, because young people want to get involved in politics. They want to make those changes, especially in a world where they're going to be the inheritors of the decisions our politicians make today. So it's really important that we get their views as well, because this is going to be their world that they're going to inherit. So, of course, why wouldn't we want younger voices involved in politics? Sure, people might say that they might not have the most experience with understanding the world, etc. But I feel like in the world of social media today, where you can almost have full transparency of what's going on with the world without newspaper outlets maybe shaping that narrative, but to get full transparency, they are more involved and more informed than ever before. So I think having that knowledge paired with that activism, that ambition, is something that's really good for young people. So maybe trying to campaign to get the voting age down would definitely be something that I work on.
Fair enough. Why, and that's an underscored why or a bold why should young people look to pursue and create roles that champion a youth voice?
I mean, if we don't, then I don't feel like we're ever going to get it, because honestly, politicians or our local government leaders, they need that sort of push to realize that there is potential in young people, in young people's voices. And if we take action and try and do what we can to show them that, yes, our voice does matter, that we can actually do things to make changes in our city, to improve our city or to improve our environments. Like, for example, the work that you've done, Khan, with the garden and trying to like start up something that from like rock bottom that has evolved into something so great. That's a perfect example of young people's influence and young people's leadership. So I feel like things like that, those examples are just key things that we need our young local governments and politicians to recognize. So it's really important that we have young people going for these roles of leadership, going for these sort of things that they feel so passionate about that they should want change. And that's the only way that we're going to get that change is if we're going to stand up and actually voice our voices, not just to ourselves or to our inner selves, but to a mic, to the public, through social media. So it's really important that we have young leaders today.
And I suppose that change is going to sound out among future generations, because you and I are probably one day going to grow old.
Yes.
And then there will be more young people who will be our age. So if we champion youth voice and push for that, then that means essentially young people are added to, the voting franchise indefinitely, which I can see that being, a positive thing, actually. And it would be, a seismic change as well. So, yeah, it's something to look out for, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I suppose look forward to see what good can come from that. My question next is, have you seen faith play a role in the success of individuals?
Yes, I mean, taking myself as an example, faith has been the biggest thing probably that's transformed me. So the point where I started to take my faith seriously was the point where I kind of just saw the world differently. Like, I found purpose to my life, and that's something that transitioned into my leadership, like ambitions and stuff like that. So one example I guess I could take is that faith taught me a lot to trust in God. Trust it, like we call it tawakkul in Islam, is to have that trust in God, and that whatever happens for a reason. And that's something, for example, when I lost the first time in Youth Mayor, really helped me out. I remember that night that I got the announcement came out for the results of Youth Mayor. I went to my Quran, and the first verse that appeared to me was فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا, that verily with hardship comes ease. And that's something that really stuck with me. And I remember I mentioned it in the BBC radio interview that I did when I won the second time, that, to be honest, that verse is probably the motto of my life, the motto of my leadership journey as a whole, that every time that I've made that effort, those hardships, went through that struggle, I've always found reward in it. And even the times I did lose, they taught me so much. And it's something that I'm really grateful for. So I'm really grateful for faith, for giving me that consciousness that whatever happens in my life happened for a reason, and that I can just take comfort in knowing that everything that was meant for me will come out. So, for example, how recently I did apply to Cambridge University. However, unfortunately, I wasn't successful. But even with
They're missing out. They're missing out on you.
Thank you. Thank you. But yes, I remember that night, that day that I got the announcement. Very next day, I get invited by the East Midlands Combined Authority asking me to come out to speak with the Mayor of the East Midlands to gain those different opportunities. It's like how Allah says in the Quran that when we take something from a believer, we replace it with something much better. And I think that's just something that, even if you're not religious, just taking into the fact that everything that you have and that everything that is destined for you, just don't worry if you're losing, you're always going to gain something in the future. So don't worry about it. That short moment of hardship is just a fraction compared to everything else that you can look forward to in your life. So faith has definitely been a big thing, and I think will continue to be a big thing in all that I try and pursue.
So I suppose then that's been the driving force behind you to have this unbreakable spirit, and in a way to just keep going for things. And it makes me think of a quote: your success is inevitable and your failure can also be inevitable.
Yes.
You get to decide. You get to decide through your actions every single day whether you're going to give up or continue. And either way, on the balance of averages, if you just continue working at your dream, you will succeed eventually. And I suppose in a way that's having faith, isn't it?
And I guess it's like seeing those failures, like, would you see them as failures or do you see them as successes? Because, for example, yes, I might fail with that first time of me running for youth mayor, but looking back now, I don't think I would have been as good of a youth mayor if I ran and won that first time. Especially I wouldn't have had those opportunities that I got with like the European Council or with the National Crime Beats or with White Ribbon. I wouldn't have had those opportunities if I won the first time. So everything that happens in our lives, truly there is a better intention in that. And even if we might not know it at the time, for example, for us Muslims, we know that God is all knowing. And if we have trust in that, then we know that something better will come from it. And as Allah says also in the Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, that Allah does not burden a soul with more than it can bear. So everything that you go through in life, every single hardship, every single trouble, every single problem or whatever it is, you are able to get through with it. So even if it is something as big as running for a national election across young people for the youth mayor of Derby, sure, you might not have gotten it the first time, but that doesn't mean it's a problem that you can't overcome. So with patience, with sabr, which is the Arabic word for patience, and with time, if you put your passion into it and you have that passion, that's the main thing really, and you can achieve.
You're speaking from a place of it seems wisdom, timeless wisdom, which I'm sure lots of listeners will be able to, take some value from, certainly. So my next question really is, what is your biggest fear?
I think my biggest fear was losing, losing and not feeling like I've had that big of an impact in what I've done. So that was definitely a big thing during Youth Mayor, for example, that whenever I had any sort of opportunity, I'd do my best to not only accept that opportunity, but maximize it to its fullest potential. Because I feel like every opportunity that I go for, I really want to do what I can with it, because I want to make sure that I've had the biggest impact, whether that's for maximizing my own potential in terms of opportunities or maximizing the impact that it's had on young people, for my faith, etc. I always want to make sure that I do everything 110%. So I always, for example, if I'm attending an event, I'll make sure to speak to everyone. If I'm attending a meeting, I'll stay behind the meeting, talk to everyone, try and maximize as much as I can. So I think a big fear of mine is having that fear that I won't, almost as if I would disappoint myself if I don't do everything. But even then, you could say it's a weakness as well. If you're pushing yourself to that limit or beyond that limit, it can be detrimental. But it's just learning to realize through experience. Then again, as I said again, experience is the best thing. Learning through experiences, those things that, if it pushes you to the edge, learn to maybe tone it back, for example, if you're speaking and maybe you're not able to talk to everyone, or maybe you don't have the time, or you need to balance family or school, whatever it is, learn to have those balances. So I think, definitely a big fear for me is not maximizing my opportunities or potential.
So you are very serious about succeeding and trying to make that impact. And you know what? It's really refreshing actually to talk to someone like that, as opposed to someone who is driven by, materialism or more, with time, meaningless ambition. Yeah. It seems you are very much focused on that impact.
Yes, I see that. I mean, have people all the time telling me that, Munti, take things a step back, you're doing too much, you're going to burn out.
And you feel like you're doing too much?
Thing is, whenever I hear people saying that, in my head, I'm thinking, am I really doing that much? To me, I feel like I can do so much more.
Or is it just that you're doing more than them?
I don't know.
Because they don't know your limits.
Yeah.
They don't know your limits.
True. But yeah, I always feel like I can do more.
Yeah.
But I think it's just understanding that that's probably more aspirational than reality.
Okay.
So it's always good to have those boundaries that you set for yourself and making sure that you have time allocated just for yourself,
To reflect.
Yes.
And I suppose the lesson is to know yourself. Yes. So that you don't accidentally go beyond your limits.
Know yourself, and then how to be how best to be yourself.
And it's very possible to push yourself far over the edge. I was speaking to another guest who even gave themselves quite bad injuries through overtraining in sport in order to maintain, their top level in national sport. So it's very possible. And they didn't realize that they were pushing themselves too hard until they woke up one day and they couldn't walk. Right.
Oh, wow.
So I suppose the listeners should appreciate that and take some time to reflect, I suppose.
Sometimes you can be that narrow-minded onto whatever you want to achieve, that you sort of neglect everything else, and it can lead to you going beyond the limits. So it's just making sure that you're conscious of everything else that's around you and all the other responsibilities that you have in life. Especially when you're putting your eggs into multiple baskets, you need to know that there is eventually, you only have a certain number of eggs in the end. So you need to be wise with how many eggs you place in each basket on what matters the most to you.
A bit of a more personal question. Briefly, at what point in your life can you sit there and go, this has been the lowest point for me?
Okay, so this links into my faith as well. So the reason that I got into my faith was around the end of year 7. It was over the summer, and it was when I fell out with my best mate. Now, previously to that point, I'd never fallen out with anyone. I remember I took it so hard on myself, and even led to me thinking dangerous thoughts as well. It was a big time in my life that really struck me down, and I felt like I didn't have anyone at that point as well. I was too scared to tell my parents about how I was feeling and all of those different feelings that just conflict demons in my head, almost you could say. And I had nothing to go to. I felt like my friends had betrayed me, stuff like that. And that's where I really just turned to faith, because that was the one thing that I felt like I could feel comfort in. And that just grew and festered into this beautiful thing. And we managed to make up shortly after, towards the end of the summer. Now we're great best friends again, one of my bestest friends. And because of that one moment, even though it was the lowest point of my life, honestly, it led to the highest points because of how it got me into faith. And that root or that seed that was implanted through that moment has really just grown into this beautiful tree of how I've managed to use that moment to try and motivate me and to build my faith and inspire others and aspire others and give me that motivation to do what I do today.
Yeah,
I think it's really important for me, and definitely that we may all have those low points in our lives, but it's just really knowing how we can get through those, that you will get through it, even if it seems like nothing and everything else just hurts and hurts and hurts. You will get through it. As Allah says, with hardship comes ease. Every single hardship, the beauty of it is there will always be that ease. You just have to be patient, and it will come, and beautiful things will come.
That is an incredibly inspiring analogy. Thank you for sharing that.
No worries.
What is a life that is well lived to you?
Honestly, for me, one word: contentment. People always say that a happy life is the best life, or a life that we try and live for happiness is the best life. But in my eyes, that's a road that is never ending. We can always chase happiness, but there will always be something else after we've achieved that happiness that we want to aspire to. And we'll just keep on going and going and going. We'll never be satisfied with what we have. But a life of contentment is a life of satisfaction. And a life of satisfaction is one where we're really happy, where we have true happiness. And it's reflected in religion, in my religion of Islam as well. Allah says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُم بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَتَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُهُم بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. That verily in the remembrance of Allah, your heart will find contentment. And it's really important to notice that Allah says contentment, not happiness, in that contentment is the true aspiration of life, because it's the one where we'll be happiest, because we're not chasing some goal that will only just, further drive us away. But contentment is something that we will really find satisfaction with and true happiness. So for me, I think a life of contentment is way better than a life where we're trying to pursue happiness, which can diverge into other things. So contentment is basically what I'd say, because happiness can be something that can lead the poor person to, happiness for them might be like cars or a big house or a mansion or stuff like that. And realistically, that might not ever happen. But if that poor person was to look for contentment, they would be happy with what they have. And with that, that is a more realistic goal in one side as well. But it is also something that will just lead to a better outcome and mindset of life, that once again, everything that is meant for you for a reason. Maybe that pursuit for riches will drive you into arrogance. So it's just being happy with what you have, because that is ultimately what is best for you. And in Islam, we'd say what Allah has planned for you is best for you. And there's reason to that.
That is a very interesting analogy, that pursuing riches could turn you to arrogance. But on the flip side, pursuing, humility could lead you to riches.
Yes.
I suppose what's important is that we all have a good heart and good intentions in what we do. And then what will come our way, as long as we are focused and just want to do good, I suppose. You have wisdom beyond your years, certainly. And I'm sure you get that a lot. Certainly. So what's been the greatest obstacle that you faced as a young activist and change maker?
I think it's just learning to appreciate your own voice. So, for example, during Youth Mayor or during any other leadership pursuit I've had, there's always been some sort of pressure, I guess, to satisfy the people, their voices, what they want, and that can sometimes conflict with what you think is right. So, for example, like, you'll never ever please everyone. And it's something that you have to learn, and something I learned through experience is that don't be afraid to voice what you think is true and have that platform to really engage with that. So, for example, through social media, I'm very vehement on spreading my faith, on educating both Muslims and non-Muslims about Islam and all its different principles and all its different meanings and all of its different things that it encourages, not just in terms of religion, but also lifestyle-wise and the lessons that it teaches. And that's something I'm really proud of. And even if people might say that, oh, Munti, you're too religious, you can calm it down a bit, or that, oh, Munti, like, this isn't like no one's going to listen to this. For me, like, it's just learning to put those voices aside and really just go for what you think is right.
You are unapologetically yourself.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And I think anyone, be them religious, irreligious, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyone who has any nous about themselves, I think, should be a bit more like you, unapologetically, confident in what you're saying and promoting what you think is right.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, regardless of where people stand, I think can take some wisdom from you. I would say that you are, of our generation, one of the leaders, right? Okay. And probably we're going to be seeing a lot more of you in the future.
God willing.
So what, for those who are listening right now, what makes a good leader?
Good leader, in my opinion, if I had to dumb it down to one thing, passion. You can have all the experience, you can have all the qualifications, whatever. But if you don't have passion, you're not going to have any, it's leaning into faith as well. To faith, some people it might mean religion, but to others, it could mean hope. And you can only have hope for the future if you have passion for what you want to do. Because, if you don't have passion, then you're not going to have any purpose to what you want to do. If you don't have purpose to what you want to do, you're less likely going to achieve it. But if you have passion for what you want to do, you're going to be more motivated to achieve it. And if you're more motivated, you're probably going to get it done. And when you get it done, you're going to please people. You're going to actually make landmark changes or whatever you want to do. So passion is definitely the big thing for me. Yeah. And experience-wise, for example, I've done assemblies when I was at Norbaker. Every term I used to do assemblies about Islam, educating people about Islam and addressing misconceptions. And probably the one reason that I was able to so confidently do those was because Islam was a passion of mine. And talking about that subject just openly without a script or anything like that, passion was a big motivating factor for that. So passion, whatever it is to whoever it is, whatever passion means to you, cling on to that and really go home with it and do what you can with it, whatever it is to you. If that's arts, if it's technology, use that as your ambition for what you want to do in the future, rather than what people might say you should do. do what you want to do in terms of your passion.
What do you think is the biggest problem with Gen Z?
Oh, okay. Probably lack of self-belief, I'd say. So I feel like with a lot of young people today, they put themselves down a lot. So if we're talking academia wise, whether it's looking for, like, if you've got an exam coming up, there will always be young people that say, "Oh, I can't do this," or "This is too much for me," or it's just that fixed mindset. You could say
In a box.
yes. But that open mindset is something that we could really use as young people, or as a generation. Really, it's just having that confidence in ourselves, because the potential is there. If it's politically wise, with activism, academically wise, whatever. Our generation we've got a bright future, and I think it's just educating our young people to really realize that you have that potential and use it. It's okay. Like, things are going to be okay in the end. Like, yeah, that potential is really there. So I think having that self-belief, whether it's through faith or through other means, trying to just reach that confidence in ourselves is something that I think our young people really need today.
I completely echo those sentiments. Our generation does have a lot of potential. And I think we have not been, as humanity, but, our generation has been so blessed, right? Probably the most blessed generation with tools.
Yes.
To make immeasurable impact. Social media. Instead of speaking to one person, you can say a 1-minute piece to millions.
Yes.
In an instant, for free, right? AI, I was speaking to another guest about this. AI is completely going to revolutionize basically everything that we know. And it's free on your phone right now to go and use, to go and amplify you. So yeah, completely agree. Young people that are listening, they need to make use of what they have. And to that listener, I think they need to believe in themselves more and be more Munti, right? What's something that you're doing now that you wish you had have done earlier?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, okay.
LinkedIn. So networking in general. So probably during Youth Mayor, it was something that I was advised on in terms of building those connections later on. And I think I really reaped the benefits of it after Youth Mayor when I actually set up my LinkedIn account, is trying to go out. So I've always said, go out there, make those opportunities, make those connections. And I feel like in a world of social media today, especially with things like LinkedIn, where it can be so easy to get in contact with the right people, because more so today, it's knowing the right people rather than maybe having the right qualifications, etc. Especially, like, for example, if you're trying to get an apprenticeship or something like that, it's just knowing the right people. And I feel like things like LinkedIn, you're really able to establish those connections. And the beauty of it is that after Youth Mayor, you might have thought that I would have calmed down a bit. But because I had set up LinkedIn, because I had connected with all the people that I'd met through Youth Mayor, I managed to establish those connections, maintain those connections, and be able to reap the rewards with all the different opportunities that have come from it. So, for example, I was invited to attend the Islamophobia awareness event as well, to speak at that, to still have connections and involvement in local politics through the Voice and Action Youth Council, through, as I earlier said, with the East Midlands Combined Authority, by meeting with the Mayor of the East Midlands. All these different things have been because of LinkedIn.
And you met with the Mayor after you finished your role, right?
Yes, after. So even like after Youth Mayor, I've still had those opportunities.
And that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be, now cast aside. I mean, look at adult politicians. Obviously, you're a young adult, but we say adult. Most politicians are like bordering elderly, right? But let's talk about, I don't know, ex-prime ministers, right? They don't just like disappear. They go off and do things. Yeah. So I see no reason why you couldn't do that. But it's really good that you are reaping those rewards and laying a foundation as well for yourself to now springboard possibly into adulting politics,
Yeah.
How should youth unbox themselves? Many youth, I think, feel hemmed in and only able to do what adults, offer them, platforms that are provided to them. And as a result, they're in this imaginary box where, that I'm a young person. I've got school. and there's no opportunities. What do you say to those young people?
I feel like, especially for young people who feel like that, the only responsibility for a young person is school, getting through that, and then everything is going to come out. No, it's definitely not like that. Even as a young person who's going through education, don't let that be a limiting factor, but let that be an opportunity to further your potential. Even when you're in school, there's all these different things that you can do. And it's just having that open mindset again. So, for example, right now, even after Youth Mayor, I'm volunteering with different charities and different organizations, trying to get my foothold in different experiences, whether that's working with young people with SEND or working with other young people, etc. Even though I am still going through A-levels, there's still those opportunities that you can go with. So it's really important for young people to understand that even if you are like a student, don't let that be the only label to you. Branch yourself out, be open to it. Sure, you might not get accepted into everything that you might want to do, but the effort that you've made is only going to grow and grow and grow from there. You're not going to go down from it. So it's just having that ambition and that initiative to branch yourself out, take those opportunities. For example, if that's through LinkedIn or through just talking to people, talking to parents about any connections they have, all these different ways that young people have today to really make an impact or to diversify themselves in their academic potential or other opportunities. There's so much out there today. So it's just really important for young people to be informed of that through things like this podcast to really maximize what they can do in the future.
Absolutely. That's a good amount of wisdom there. Thank you so much, Munti, for coming on the Inspiring Youth Agency podcast. It's been a pleasure speaking to you today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.